listen to the AZ Wildcats Podcast, brought to you by DraftKings, America's #1 sportsbook app. Now joined by the great William Brad Allis, Kansas City Chiefs fan William Brad Allis, coming off a freshly minted second Super Bowl win. Hello, William.
Hello, Michael.
All right, well, I'm just going to say, all right, let's talk about the Chiefs just for a second here. But you know what? That was as impressive a second half performance by a team as you'll see in the Super Bowl, especially when it looked like they were on the ropes.
Yeah, and the first half wasn't bad either. If you look at it, I think they punted once, maybe twice. There was a iffy no call on one of them where you could argue that Chiefs should have had a first down, but the Eagles were magnificent in the first half offensively, and they were okay in the second half, but I read somewhere today that Mahomes' quarterback rating was out of 100, 99.4 in the second.
That's good.
Half. That's not bad. And yes, I'm going to say, I know why people are upset about the holding call. I will say this. I'm blaming Fox. Fox only showed one camera angle, and that was the one where the guy had the hand, Bradbury had the hand on the back. I would have been mad about that too, but if you watch the whole play develop, he grabs him 3 times. He grabs him on the jersey, he grabs him on the arm, and then he puts the hand around the back. And it clearly impeded Juju Smith-Schuster's route. That was a similar route to the one they kept getting burned on. Would he have caught it? I have no idea. But that being said, 6 inches offside cost me a Super Bowl in 2019, so I'm going to take it.
Right, I would take it as well. All right, we got some breaking news here because we break news left and right here on the AZ Wildcats podcast.
Sometimes I put it back together.
Actually, we're not breaking news here because it's already been broken. Kevin Sumlin is back in the game. Kevin Sumlin has been hired as the co-offensive coordinator at Maryland. I will say I never saw Kevin Sumlin getting another major Division I coaching job again. I was wrong. Kevin Sumlin is back in the scene. Thoughts, William?
Did you see that offense that the Houston Gamblers ran?
That's true.
That didn't look good.
Yeah.
I'm not sure any offense in the that version of the USFL looked good. Although I will admit, Kevin Woodman and I picked the Birmingham Stallions to be our team. They have right. Scooby Wright, and they're the defending champs. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, someone's well connected. He has been well-respected guy. But there was nothing at Arizona that made you feel like he was on top of his game. Maybe an OC is the lack of pressure job, co-OC too, that he needs to kind of, rejuvenate his career. Obviously we've seen a lot of guys go to Alabama as an analyst. Maybe Maryland is now the Alabama of the ACC.
Right. All right. Now let's talk about, we had Brett McMurphy on yesterday, and just, so people know this isn't just some guy that's, doing president's bidding. This is the man that broke the dissolving of the Big East into the ACC. He's broken a lot of stories. He broke the Ohio State Urban Meyer situation, all of that. He's broken a lot of stuff. And he said that he doesn't see really any way that Arizona is in the Pac-12 in a couple of years. And a big reason why is he said that the Big Ten is going to come calling sooner than later for Oregon and Washington, because USC and UCLA need travel partners. They can't be out there on an island by themselves. And he said he expects Arizona and ASU to be in the Big 12. What are your thoughts on that, William?
The only way the Pac-12 is a viable conference, Power 5 conference, is Washington and Oregon remaining. And then I think you have to hope for what I call the TCU effect. And that is, you hope you bring in some combination of San Diego State, SMU, and or UNLV, and hope they decide to be big-time programs. San Diego State has the across-the-board athletic success I think you look for, but are they always going to play second fiddle in football and hoops to USC and UCLA? Because I can tell you, having gone to San Diego, that's kind of how the fan. Now, maybe that's different now, 20 years later. But I know when I used to go there, frequently for like recruiting camps and stuff, there was a lot of, I'm a Charger fan, I'm a Padre fan, I'm a USC football fan, I'm a UCLA basketball fan.
Right.
Same thing in Dallas. They're SMU's playing second and third fiddle, maybe fourth fiddle. And they're, obviously Texas is king. Texas A&M is still big, and TCU's right there.
TCU's bigger than them. Tech is bigger than them. You could go down. You could probably find quite a few.
Can Dallas fall in love with SMU? I don't know. And UNLV, obviously Tark was king there, but is a community that now has pro hockey and pro football. Will probably have pro basketball sooner rather than later. Will they embrace a college team with really no history of success? The irony is, I think from a fan standpoint, to quote Bill Walton, you need truck stops. I mean, in Stillwater, Oklahoma State's king.
Right.
In Lubbock, Texas A&M is king. Now, the only outlier really in that conference is Kansas, and Kansas football is nothing. But that's, Lawrence, Kansas is a de facto suburb of Kansas City. It's 45 minutes, but it's, they're all Chiefs fans. Chiefs are king there. So can the Pac-12 become viable with that? Because unfortunately, I don't think Boise moves the needle. No matter how good Boise State football's been, I don't think there's another program out there, especially if you lose Washington and Oregon. So I think if Arizona is smart, and I know everyone's up in arms, if Arizona hasn't at least had conversations with the Big 12, then Arizona's stupid. I would almost guarantee you that they've had at least some sort of back channel. And again, I think Arizona and ASU, especially, but I think Colorado now with Dion, and don't be shocked if that's not one reason they brought Dion in. And Utah with what they have, that's, the mountain schools are fairly attractive because when you look at it, you've got the Phoenix market, which Arizona is in a way a part of. Don't discount that. You've got the Salt Lake market, which is okay, but you've also got a secondary LDS market. Obviously, BYU's king.
Right.
Colorado has a good following in Colorado, and they especially are going to with Brock. And Arizona's got this not oddly, but loyal fan base that is going to use your digital package. I have heard, I don't know if these numbers are true, I have heard that Arizona basketball accounts for an overwhelming number of views of the Pac-12 network for Arizona basketball.
Right.
That they are among, if not the leaders in almost every sports broadcast. And some of that is just the nature of Tucson. There's no other game in town, with apologies to the Sugar Skulls and the Roadrunners. Arizona is king in Tucson. Right. It's not a huge market, but again, if you're trying to sell a secondary digital package, whether that's to ESPN or a third party, Arizona consumes that inventory.
Right. I think too, when you look at it from from just a monetary perspective, which we're going to get to in just a second here, but first, Four Peaks. Now, you might say to yourself, Mike, that's the official brew of PHNX Sports. You're correct. But it's also what we call the U of A big men right here. But again, check out Four Peaks at the Tempe location, or if you're cool, come to the Tap and Bottle watch parties and get some Four Peaks as well. Show notes and link in the description. We would love to see you down there. Four Peaks and Octane Raceway up in Phoenix, up in Scottsdale. Let's say you're like William Brad Alice. You got a couple kids running around the place, and you're saying to yourself, man, I'd like to take the kids to some place where we can get them exercise and we can get them out of the house for a little bit. This is the place. You've got racing, you got video games, you got pool, you got food, you got drink, you name it, they got it. Check out the show notes and the link in the description. Octane Raceway Mavericks. All right, Stuart Mandel put out that a big problem that the Pac-12 is coming into right now is that the money that George Kliavkoff had told the presidents that he was going to be able to get for them, that just isn't there. And we had when we had Brett McMurphy on yesterday, he kept saying, he said, listen, man, you can add San Diego State or SMU. He said, you could keep adding these schools. And he says, that's not going to change any kind of distribution monetary factor. I think this really comes down to having a lot of presidents Not Bobby Robbins, because he definitely cares about sports. But I think you have a lot of presidents in the Pac-12 that couldn't possibly care less about sports. That's certainly within their right. And you got a guy in Kliavkoff that I think is maybe not Larry Scott, but he appears to be in over his head a little bit.
Yeah. I think he came into a unique situation where he had to hit the ground running, learning how to run a league, and then you have all this on top of it. So he came in at an absolutely awful time. And much like our friend Jed Fish and our new offensive coordinator at Maryland, Scott left the league in shambles because it was not a good deal. They are losing their two. As great as Arizona basketball is, and as great as Oregon,
those are your flagships. USC and UCLA
are two flagship programs. Yeah. Now, so if I'm Arizona, I'm being super aggressive. I am trying to get the four corners moving with me to try to convince the Big 12 that they need us. If not, if ASU's balking, great. Hey, San Diego State, want to go be big time? Because if the Big 12 is looking at expansion, why wouldn't they want Southern California? Again, It's not LA, but it is Southern California. And again, my guess is the San Diego community, who has now lost the Chargers, you're telling me you're part of the Big 12 now? I mean, Oklahoma State football, Arizona football, ASU or whoever, TCU, that's
Cincinnati, Houston.
That's still more appealing than San Jose State.
Correct, by a mile.
My dog is in the window.
Oh, I know. I was going to say, we like it. We're very pooch friendly on this.
Yeah, she's knocking stuff off the couch to play with on the ground.
Right.
So again, if I'm trying every angle, maybe it's just, hey, Colorado, you got prime time. Let's go get some money while he's still there before he moves on to Florida State. And again, if I'm Arizona, I'm saying, yeah, I know we're not the biggest media market, but we do have a pretty good reach into Phoenix. We are a national brand in basketball, and you just lost Oklahoma and Texas. We're a national brand in baseball, and baseball is pretty big in the Big 12. We're a national brand in softball, and I know softball is not huge, but it's big enough with that ESPN inventory that, again, you're losing the best, arguably right now, the best softball program in the country. So why not bring in a top 5 program in the country?
Let me ask you this, Brad. And this is somebody, your degree is from U of A, my degree is from the U of A. So again, we're not bashing on U of A education. Again, I'm very proud that I went to the U of A.
Harvard is the desert Southwest.
For sure. I mean, it goes without saying. I get people all the time that come up to me, or not come up to me, but tweet at me. I wanted to give myself too much credit there, and say, well, going to the Big 12 is really going to hurt Arizona's academic image. I don't understand where that is coming from. Wherever has Arizona been viewed as a premier academic institution? Again, not putting it down. It's not bad by any means. Very proud to have gone there. But this whole thing that, oh man, if you're in with Kansas and schools like that, people are going to think less of the academic part of it. Where did this come from? This isn't a school that's rated in the top 100 in U.S. News and World Report, Forbes, across the board, and there's nothing wrong with that.
In some of those reports, they are top 100, but they're in like that second tier of state schools. They're not Michigan or Texas or Cal or Washington, but Arizona's the next level down. So there is some academic cachet, but at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know. It's some kid who wants to go to medical school can't go to Arizona. They're in the Big 12.
Right.
And it's not like the Big 12. Again, the Big 12 is not as good academically as the Pac-12. That is true. Especially now that Oklahoma and Texas are gone, especially Texas. But it's, I know Houston's a commuter school, but Kansas, not a bad school. If you bring Colorado with you, they're a slightly better state school than Arizona. Yeah, you got Oklahoma State and Texas Tech, and but yeah, I don't think it's going to add. I think you being stuck in the Mountain West Part 2 is worse for your school's reputation than being associated with the Big 12 academically.
Right.
Again, in a magical world, Arizona would be selling academics and basketball to the Big 10, but that's not going to happen. So
what I also like about the Big 12, and then we're going to move on to some Arizona basketball and some Arizona football. But what I really like about the Big 12, I like Brett Yormark, the commissioner right there. He came in for his background, worked with Jay-Z very closely. He came in here and he said a bunch of stuff about how he was going to get his schools more money than they previously had, despite losing Oklahoma and Texas. Done. He was going to expedite Texas and Oklahoma getting out. Done. And he was going to be very aggressive. That's the next move. All that stuff has come to play, whereas Kliavkoff came in and said, we're not looking to expand. Meanwhile, his two teams are taken out from under his nose. Then he says that we'll expand after a TV deal. Well, that's not happening as well. Then he's saying he's going to get a certain amount of money for his schools that he hasn't. I don't see anything from Kliavkoff as opposed to Yormark that says this guy's on the level with this guy.
So what I'm hearing, you're telling me with his connections to Jay-Z and what he has accomplished, if Arizona moves to the Big 12, they have 99 problems, but the switch ain't one.
That's really, really good. That is fantastic. That is an instant classic right there, William.
A dad joke and a pop culture reference.
But it's very good, though. All right, let's get to some Arizona basketball here. But first, Mountain Mike's Pizza. Now, Oracle and Wetmore. William Brad Alice has been there. John Schuster has been there. I have been there as well. Great TV setup, good food, good drink, great place to go and watch a game with the kids or by yourself, whatever you prefer. Mountain Mike's Pizza and OG's. Now, you're like William and that you have a hard time sleeping at night. William could get some OG's and he could get indicas or sativas, you name it. They've got it in your local dispensaries. Or if you just want to feel better about yourself, get some OG's as well. Check out the show notes and the link in the description. All right, Brad, Arizona now is 22-4 on the season. And we will get to DeMarco Dunn in a second because William Brad Alice actually probably knows a little bit about DeMarco Dunn. It's Marana kid. But Arizona's 22-4 on the season with wins over Tennessee, Indiana, UCLA, Creighton, San Diego State, all clear top 25 teams. And with losses to Utah, Stanford, Washington State, and what's the other one I'm drawing a blank on? Oregon. What's going on there? How does this happen?
Welcome to college basketball in 2023.
Yep.
I was thinking about this day. I mean, you and I have talked about this a long time. I think Arizona is good enough to cut down the nets, and they're good enough to be upset by a 15 seed.
Right.
As is every other team in the country, at least being upset. So, honestly, I was thinking about this day. If I'm a betting man, I think I'm putting my money on Kansas. Because Kansas, from a talent standpoint, is no different than 25 other teams, and they've got the most accomplished coach who has a legit top 10 team.
Right.
Because there's no Coach K in Duke. There's no Roy. We're seeing we're seeing just how, look at all the talent in Durham, and they're not winning at the same rate that Coach K did.
Right.
It's hard to replace a Hall of Famer. So yeah, I think Arizona is.
Evan O'Neal did it.
Yeah.
Made the tournament. John made the tournament. Just saying.
Made the tournament. Barely. With
a team where you got Jared Bayless, Chase Budinger, Jordan Hill, and Nick Wise.
Yeah. How'd that first round game go?
West Virginia, baby.
Russ Pennell got him to the Sweet 16. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, go ahead.
So I think Arizona, and again, the way they lost the other night, inability to get Tubelis the ball, played terrible against the zone. Creasa didn't shoot well, despite Ramey having a historically good shooting night.
Yeah.
And then they melted it down at the end, which was the surprise to me. And I actually thought Tommy might have gotten a little outcoached at the end. I think he did not.
I agree.
He had to have some bigs on the line for those free throws. Even,
because they were just the problem when you go small with your Arizona is when you're small, it's not like you're going small where you've got Hassan Adams and Andre Iguodala, these super springy long athletes right there. When you're going small, I mean, you're dealing with Sed Henderson, Pella Larson, players like that just aren't, I don't care how well you box out. You could probably give up an offense.
And a taller, stronger player tap the ball out. I mean,
Right.
I've seen I've seen some people criticize. I don't think it was an effort thing. I mean, they went for those rebounds. The kid for Stanford is just bigger and more athletic. So
Right.
it happens. But again, Arizona can beat anyone. There's not a team in the country Arizona can't beat, and Arizona can certainly string together 6 good wins. But they could also lose to Northwestern State, not Northwestern, Northwestern State, who's going to throw a zone at you and shoot 33s. And if they're falling, Arizona's in trouble. If Arizona can't figure out how to get the ball inside against the zone, they're in trouble.
How many Big Ten teams do we expect to get in? Over or under 14?
How many are in the Big Ten now?
Is it 12 or 14?
So 17 Big Ten teams.
Okay. And how many survive past the first weekend?
1.
All right, you're going 1. You're going big right there. I like it. Brad's showing confidence in the Big Ten right there. I like it. What's that?
Izzo will be the one, too.
Right. Purdue gets bounced in the second round, and meanwhile, Izzo
horrifically. And I feel bad for that fan base. That's the best program that's never done anything.
Purdue?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And you've had multiple National Players of the Year. Zach Edey is going to be the National Player of the Year. Glenn Big Dog Robinson, I remember back in the day. Big Dog was
I got a jersey. I got his Bucks jersey.
He was a different guy out, and especially in college. He was crazy. All right, but now Arizona going forward here. I still believe that you can get a number 1 seed. I don't buy for a second that you can't get a number 1 seed. The main reason why is because you've got great wins and everybody else is losing. Everybody else has losses as well. Arizona's still 22-4. Now you can't keep dropping games to crap teams, but you got UCLA coming up. You could possibly get UCLA again. You got the mountain schools coming here. You got ASU coming here. Those should be 3 wins right there. You should be able to, I don't want to say chalk up wins because Arizona's had some bad losses, but outside of UCLA, you should probably be able to win these games.
Yeah, I think Arizona probably has to win out or just drop 1 against UCLA and probably beat them again or to get a 1 seed. But I think the winner of the league, barring both teams dropping multiple games, is probably the 2 seed in the West.
Right.
So again, and you could face them twice. And if that's the case, then yeah, it's going to be tough. As bad as Arizona has played in stretches, it doesn't last very long. They don't have like the loss hangover. So I fully expect them to rack up several more wins. But if they lose more than 2 more games, I'll be surprised. Again,
is that including the NCAA tournament? The Pac-12 tournament. Excuse me.
Yeah, probably. I think so. Right. That being said, one of those losses could be to Oregon State in the opening round of the Pac-12 tournament.
Right.
So that's where Arizona's bizarre, Do
you see, let me ask you this. Do you see Zoo coming back next year?
I was going to ask you this. I've been trying to think of the NBA comparison, and I'm not good at this.
Well, I know there's one NBA comparison. It's just that he's not nearly as good.
Well, yeah, to me, and it's an older school, not old school.
Yeah, talk to me.
Comparison. Is he to use Bill Simmons, is he a homeless man's Tim Duncan?
I think he's more of a homeless man's Domantas Sabonis.
Okay. So, because to me, there's a lot of those same footwork, the light touch.
Right.
Did he develop that baseline jumper? And if so, my question is, would Tim Duncan have a place in this version of the NBA? And if so, would Zoo have a role? And I don't think he's a starter in the NBA. I don't know. I think if he feels he can either latch on to the NBA now, or does he feel 1 more year, show that you can develop a better jumper, can he get into the NBA? Then I think he comes back. Because I don't know if being, a guy who's playing kind of in various European leagues appeals to him yet.
And he could probably get some really, really nice money. He could probably get some really nice money just off an NIL coming back.
Exactly. And that's my same question for Ballo.
Ballo, I don't ever see it. I got ripped on Twitter for a hateful tweet, which was supposedly a hateful tweet. I don't see Ballo ever playing in the NBA. I just don't see. I don't see it.
I'm not convinced that he does. Again, it's as a reserve, but you're telling me.
Is he better than Kofi Cockburn?
Yeah. He's more athletic. So? He runs the floor better.
All right.
So you're telling me a team can't find a place for a 7-foot rebounding, okay shot blocker who can run the floor. Granted, he can't shoot. He'll never be a starter, but you're telling me the Suns, who are going to go to war with a bunch of 6'8" power forwards backing up Ayton, wouldn't like having Umar Ballo playing 8 minutes a game off the bench?
Who's better, Umar Ballo or Joseph Blair?
As a player?
Yeah.
Regardless of fit, Umar Ballo.
Okay. All right. I just want
to part of the problem, though, is Blair's career was cut very short here.
Right.
He missed parts of 2 seasons.
Yep.
But Ballo's 7 foot, right?
Right.
Joseph Blair was about 6'8", 6'7".
Right.
Yeah. Now, if you tell me Umar Ballo's never playing a minute in the NBA and won't even play in the G League, I'd believe that as well. But I think there is a place for him potentially if a team wants a rugged space eater who can run the floor.
Normally, William Brad Allis, I agree with William Brad Allis. I don't agree with him right here, but you know what? Time will tell on that. I also didn't think the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl either, so take that for what it's worth. Now, let's get to a little bit of U of A football here, but first, Illegal Pete's. Brad is a man of the people. A lot of people are men of the people out there. You know what? If you're a man of the people, you go to Illegal Pete's. It's downtown, or it's on University. High energy, to put it mildly. Good scenery, good food, good drink. If you're cool, go to Illegal Pete's, and they actually have one in Tempe as well. I would recommend the one in Tucson though before that, because that means that you're in a better city. So again, check it out, Illegal Pete's, and the show notes and the link in the description. And again, the DraftKings Sportsbook app. What's the code word?
PHNX.
Code word PHNX. Here's the deal. You put down $5 on an NBA game and you can get up to $200 in free plays. That simple, that easy. 21 and up, Arizona only. Got a gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Right now, once Kevin Durant becomes healthy for the Suns, I would say that you might want to bet on the Suns a little bit here. I think the Suns are going to be very good. I had a debate with somebody about this, Brad, after the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Is Kevin Durant, does he surpass Charles Barkley as the best player to come to the Phoenix Suns?
If he wins a ring.
That's not what I asked.
I would say right now, Barkley's career is slightly better.
I agree.
But if Durant wins a ring on his own,
because I don't count the Steph rings, dude. Like whatever, man. I mean, going to Golden State, I heard a great comparison about what counting those rings are. Going to Golden State and winning a championship there was like bragging to your friends about losing your virginity to a hooker. I mean, it was going to happen.
But in another way, can you argue that Harden and Russ cock blocked him?
Yeah, no,
because.
But he could have gone anywhere, though.
Because Russ cost him a ring. Russ and Harden cost him a ring at Oklahoma City. I know they helped get him there, but Russ kept taking the ball out of his hands in crunch time, and Harden was so bad in that Game 7, I thought he was point shaving.
How about the game,
I thought Headache Smith got to him.
How about the following year, though, when they were up 3-1 against the Warriors, and then they gave that away, and Durant was shooting like 10 of 30 each game? I mean, Durant had some blame in that as well.
Yeah, no, certainly he did. But again, Durant is more of a generational talent than Barkley was. But people forget just how good Barkley was.
Barkley was the second best player in the world behind Mike. That's how good Barkley was.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he kept running into Mike, or
or some variation, right?
In Philly, or blowing leads to Houston. Oh, now I'm going to cry.
Let me ask you this, Brad. Now we're going to get to a little bit of U of A football talk here. I'm bullish on Arizona next year. I think they are going to. By the way, Rich, I thought it was funny as well. Thanks. But I think Arizona right now I like them at about 7 wins. I'm putting them in there at 7 wins. The great KB Thiel wanted to know, what are Brad Allis's storylines going into spring ball and fall camp. What's William Brad Allis looking for? By the way, it shows you because I always keep a number on the people watching. It shows you how Arizona basketball matters. We went from 25 down to 18 the second I mentioned Arizona football. All right, go ahead. Oh, we're back up to 20 now. Thank you. But go ahead, Brad. What are you looking for?
Front 7, back 7 of the defense.
Okay.
Those are my big.
Who do you? I'm kind of the same. I'm kind of the same way as well. The one thing that I'm fascinated by is where does the pass rush come from? Are you going to have to use it off a blitz? Can somebody like a Deuce Davis really emerge there? That's my question, because I don't see. Again, I think the defense will be better just by where the linebackers are, but I don't see a lot of quick twitch guys that you're like, oh, I could see him getting 7 or 8 sacks. I don't see that outside of Deuce Davis.
No, is the kid from Cal, was he just undercoached? I don't know. Right. That's why I think you're counting on. That's why I'm not real bullish on these transfers yet. I know what they're doing. They're trying to take a bunch of 4-star, 5-star guys and see if they were just underdeveloped, like Eccles. But yeah, we haven't seen it from Jason Harris. He just doesn't look. I don't
count. Great kid, great fan.
Jalen didn't live up to the hype, and Jason looks to be even less living up to the hype.
Right.
No offense, love the family, love those kids, but Deuce Davis, maybe are you converting a couple linebackers to more like rush ins? Are you really counting on a big push from your interior defensive line? Can one of those guys be, like the Rams use Aaron Donald or the Chiefs use Chris Jones with that interior push that frees up guys?
Right.
I don't see Bill Norton or whatever his name is being that guy.
Bill Norton.
So I have a concern about pass rush. I have a concern about, do you love the safeties?
I think there's potential with the safeties. Here's the difference. I don't look at the safeties and say to myself that I don't know who that guy is. I think there's certain guys. I think Isaiah Taylor could be good. I think Genesis Smith could be good. Like I said, I look at the pass rushers and I just don't know outside of Deuce Davis who could possibly be that guy that emerges.
Yeah. I mean, again, so does that mean you're blitzing backers? But then if you're running that 2-backer scheme, that leaves a lot. You're going to really count on those safeties. You're really going to count on that, that third safety in the flats and in the mid range. So yeah, I think it's, are you blitzing safeties like crazy? Are you going? So I think there are a lot of questions. I think the safest position on defense seems to be corner for me. Mm-hmm. I think that combination of the 3 young guys with
it's not linebacker for you now.
I don't know if you have enough depth at linebacker. I think your starting linebackers are fine. Right. But I still think
right, fair enough.
Yeah, so it's really that front 4 and the 3 safeties. And again,
by the way,
is Taylor good? Yeah. Was Maldonado serviceable? Yeah. Is Warnell okay? Yeah. But you really sold on any of those guys?
The fans are giving me the middle finger, by the way. We're up to 30 now. They're saying to themselves, that you know what, Mike Luke, comment that right there.
I think Rich went to Facebook and started posting to the Huntington Beach Alumni Association. And
Rich, you're the man, dude. I appreciate you.
You've converted Rich, by the way.
Oh, Rich used to hate me. Trust me.
Couldn't stand you.
Rich
now he loves you.
Rich absolutely despised me right there. So again, Rich, appreciate that I've grown on you a little bit right there. I do have to ask you a question, though, about DeMarco Dunn before we sign off. Kid at North Carolina. A lot of people think that he could end up back here at Arizona. He was in Marana. Did you have any experience with DeMarco Dunn?
I didn't see DeMarco Dunn play. No, he was either not playing varsity then or just happened to be in the time. So I don't remember him. In fact, the best player when I was at Marana was actually Jamie Swan's brother, who ended up playing at the Air Force Academy. So yeah, I don't remember Dunn. I know he was, grew up there. And unfortunately, like a lot of Marana athletes left there for greener pastures, but he is a talented athletic kid. If he comes back to Arizona, that would be interesting to see how.
And I think he provides a little bit of athleticism, a little bit of length that you don't really have right now. So I think that,
that is the thing. Yeah, that's what Arizona's missing. They're missing that true, for lack of a better word, what Lute discovered with his wings. in about 95.
Right.
Remember, after having to use Reggie Geary at small forward for a year, he never didn't have two of those guys. And you can look at the list. It's the list goes all the way back to Eddie Smith of every small forward, with the exception of the duo of Corey and Joe McClain, played in the league. And all Corey did was carve out a 12-year career as like the biggest star in Belgium. And Joe McClain's managing $1 million hedge funds or whatever he's doing.
Joe McClain's an interesting guy, because Joe McClain, I was comparing, and again, I was a little wrong on this, but I was comparing Pella's impact to Joe McClain. And Joe McClain couldn't shoot at all his first 3 years, even though Lute would always say that he was a great shooter.
He shot 60% in high school. That's the crazy thing.
But then his senior year, he shot like 38 or 39%. Now, again, Joe is never going to be mistaken for an all-timer, but Joe had a nice little senior season for himself.
Yeah, Joe was a guy who you won't see anymore. He was a guy who came in with some fanfare as a scorer. And it's interesting how many guys that happened to back in the days of less sophisticated scouting. Right. Because if you remember, Harvey Mason was like California all-time leading scorer.
Right.
Quinn Tebbs came in.
Quinn Tebbs out of Utah.
And then who was the kid? Casey Schmidt. Those
How
guys
is
were
Quinn
all.
Tebbs spelled? How is Quinn spelled?
Was it like Quynn or something like that? Yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, Casey Schmidt came in being one of the great shooters in high school, and actually finished as the NCAA free throw shooting leader for a year. But Joe, instead of leaving, decided to become a grinder.
Right.
The knee pads, and he became, again, I think Pella's a better player, and I think I said that over the summer, and you argued with me. But
I did.
Joe was that spark that a lot of teams need, and that Pella has provided off the bench in a different way. Joe was all hustle plays and floor burns and every stereotype of a grinder, but that's what he was. And he could when needed. When you have that big game, I think against ASU, where he hit like 4 or 5 from behind the arc or something like that. So he was that guy, and you need those guys. Unfortunately, in this day of let's transfer if I don't get my way, you don't see many of those guys anymore at big schools. They go play, and that's why you see these little schools who can make runs.
All right, Brad, before we sign off right here, I know you're a busy man, but the people are asking, when is Brad Allis when are his podcasts coming back? Your absence has been noted. People want more Brad Allis, not less Brad Allis.
Well, I think we're in a good position now. I finally quit coughing. I'm working on the intro. I'm going to do some production values on this first one. It's going to be a movie reference, and I think we should be back as well as I hope to be. I keep wanting to come on the postgame, but it's so crowded. I can't.
Dude, no. We make room for Brad Allis when you come on. No, Brad. We make room for the great Brad Allis whenever he wants to come on.
I was setting up to come on Saturday, and then we had a little family issue. But yeah, I hope to start doing that more regularly. We would love to have you on. Again, the Thursdays are tough because not only do I have hockey that night, but now we're starting to have Little League baseball starting up. But yeah, I should be making my return, especially just so I can make more Chiefs references, and everyone has to drink when I do that. We appreciate that. But for Brad Allis, I'm Mike Luke. Everybody out there, Rich, thanks for liking me now. I appreciate that. Kobe, everybody out there, you guys are the ones that make this show. Kobe, great point about the defense too, by the way, of Zoo. That's a great point that I ignored. Yeah, but you know what? Kobe's a smart guy right there. And again, he was diminishing his Eller degree right there. No. I'm not talking about people that went to Eller. Eller is different. You brag about Eller. I'm talking about journalism. How do I put this without passion? The university. If you're like me and you have journalism and education degrees, that's a little bit different than Eller. So I just want to throw that one out there. But for Brad Allis, I'm Mike Luke. Harvard of the Desert Southwest. Harvard of the Desert Southwest. You have been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.